expected to take 50 minutes, the same duration as an exam, then I think that that could be argued to the students that would be an unreasonable course of action by the instructor. I think that this measure, I guess, provides enough of a security blanket as to where they can't administer more than one exam. But you're right, they still could administer, 2 smart checks or 2 quizzes plus an exam if they so choose. Senator Halstead.
I'd just like to comment though, I mean, it's pretty significant even if the quizzes are 15% weight less on the teacher's syllabus.
Right.
They have 3 of them a week with an exam. It's still significant enough to be, you consider it very highly when you're taking the quiz. You're like, I can pass. So I'm just wondering if you consider including any quizzes or anything else. Because I'm just wondering where the gray area is with the tests and quizzes and how they're going to go forward with that.
So comment before you all. I think why I was focused on the examination portion is because in policy manual there's no mention of quizzes at all. They're not even a thing, right? In the policy manual, it's just examinations. So I was trying to build off of the policy manual that talks about holding final examinations and common examinations. So that could be looked at, subsequently, right? In the fall, that could be also examined as well. The other quiz matters. Let's go, Senator Burt.
Well, to kind of hit that, I guess, could we not put in something that says exams being defined as something about 10% of your grade? Because I know most exams, at least in most of my classes, nothing has really been above 10% unless it's an actual exam. I know quizzes are worth mostly 10% combined, but there's 15 quizzes over the semester. So.
Senator Ballmeister?
Point of clarification.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Senator Leonard, I apologize.
No, go ahead. Yeah, point of clarification I have.
Point of clarification. Are you saying assessments individually being worth more than 15% of your total overall grade?
Yeah. Or just putting in there anything over 10% is to be considered an exam. So because since we didn't say quizzes were defined, that would kind of say anything over this amount is because it could, if you're taking 4 exams, it's going to kind of affect how good you're doing academically.
Sure.
And if you're getting 40% of your class in that week amount of time, it's gonna hurt if you don't do good. So.
Senator Leonard.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution because my concern with this policy is I know in my Calc 3 class we could take a quiz and then we could retake it multiple times throughout the week to try and get a better grade on the quiz. And I want to be careful that makeup exams or quizzes and that sort of state don't fall under this policy. Whereas if you have an exam, you have a makeup exam, maybe it's okay to wait a week, but quizzes, that makes sense. Or if we want to completely exempt makeup exams from this policy.
Right. Senator Sanchez.
Yeah, going off of Senator Leonard, some professors have a tendency to just throw out an exam if the students do poorly and then have them take a different one a couple days later. So I just don't want this to interfere with that.
Senator Clausen.
I suppose a way to remedy that would be, say, one test that actually affects your grade per 5 business days. If you're doing makeup, then that original one's going to be erased. Or if, like you said, they throw it out, then that's just my idea for that, I guess.
Senator Jeffson.
I think instead of labeling it as exam, kind of sticking with that percentage of the grade within this many business days could be a good way to go about it and administer 2 things within 5 business days that would account for more than 10, 15, or 30%.
Senator Leonard.
I have a motion. So
Okay, Senator Meyer.
What's the extent that would amend this to say with an exception of makeup exams? Can we do that now? Or would it have, we have to come back? Maybe not sure. Is that that a major alteration of the document?
I'll let Senator Ladder.
Mine was a motion to table because I feel we need to add makeup exams and percentage to label an exam in this, which I would consider major changes to this.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Smith. Let's do a roll call vote.
Actually, it's the first reading, right? So we can just leave it until next week.
Correct.
Okay.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. So with that, if you all could, I know we have minutes being taken too, but if you could send Clyde or I your suggestions for whether to include just a percentage stipulation or whether to include makeups with percentage. In my mind, it's like, well, is that a gray area? If you take an exam, but you're going to take a makeup, that first exam is null and void, right? So send us your suggestions and your thoughts on all that, how you've seen this, and we will get it back to you very quickly next week. Senator Meyer.
Is there a school policy on what exactly an exam is for, or quizzes for? Okay, because we have to define that very clearly.
Yeah, that would have to be defined clearly. Yeah. Senator Baumeister.
Motion to limit discussion.
Seconded by Senator Smith. Okay. All those in favor of limited discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, so moving on. Let's see here. We were going to talk and present Boston W25S012, which is midterm grade posting. And a development just came up a couple hours ago that I was learned by Dean Joe, that actually the Board of Regents is going to be mandating that faculty submit midterm grades in a reasonable time. I assume you're going to follow the policy 3 days after the midterm date. They have to submit a letter grade to the students. So that's what this policy is going to do. We're going to wait and see how that looks to make sure that it has everything that we want, but we don't want to have two simultaneous policies trying to be fought out when one's from the Board of Regents and one's from students, and we'd rather have the overarching one. Senator Baumeister.
Of my understanding from discussions with Dr. Thornburg, this is actually technically already a policy that the math department does not like it. Pretty much regularly disregards, with the argument that it's not possible for them to accurately give a midterm grade.
All right. Ludos, take this.
Yeah, I can add some clarification. So the policy from the Board of Regents currently is midterm grades have to be submitted if a student is deficient. So a D or an F have to be submitted. Anything else is optional. Our campus administration has strongly recommended letter grades, regardless where you're standing, A, B, C, or D. But it hasn't been a formal policy. So that's where some of your faculty may say, I know it's recommended. I know my boss wants me to, but I'm not going to. The new policy, which was just approved, it's just not on. If you go to the Board of Regents policy website right now, it's not there quite yet. I don't know when that update will be. That new one requires it. So if next fall in your math class you don't have a midterm grade and it's 2 weeks after, you could file a grievance, and that would be, that's even more formal than a complaint. That's like, hey, you are violating policy, Professor So-and-so.
Senator Sessions.
So in the math department, they give you like a C, D, or F based on whether or not they think you'll pass the class. So is that practice still going to continue, or will they have to give you your actual letter grade?
I don't quite follow what the part of your first part of your comment even means.
So basically, they give you a C if they believe you'll pass, a D is you're on the verge of failing, and an F is you're currently failing.
That's wild to me. I would assume that if it's Board Regent policy, they must post a grade. Then I would say that that grade's going to be in writing. So I would think that if they say You know, if they post a grade of a C thinking that you're probably gonna pass when you're actually a D, that'd probably be a grievance there, right?
I guess we'll see what the text actually says, but if it just says you must post a letter grade of their standing at that point in time, and they put a C for whatever reason, it's shady, but they're technically following policy. It's not accurate. But we can look at the wording.
Okay. All right, so I thank you to the people that did work on this. We will keep this locked and loaded in case this has to come back up and the Board of Regents somehow has some cracks that need to be filled, okay? Moving on to our last policy here. This one's gonna have some discussion, I already know it. This is what Sean mentioned, Sean talked about earlier, Sean McQueen, the Veteran Club President. This is Vostead We 25S013, which would be a constitutional amendment related to the Armed Services Representation. So this is originated by myself and Vice President Lee in the wee hours of the morning, presented by Vice President Lee.
Right. So the wording here has been very carefully selected, so pay attention, so hopefully all your questions will be answered by the time I finish. Alright, whereas the Student Association Constitution currently specifies that the veteran senator be a U.S. military veteran or a member of ROTC, despite there currently being little to no overlap between those two communities. And whereas leaders from the Veterans Club and Veterans Resource Center have expressed concern regarding the ability of an ROTC member to adequately represent veterans as a veteran senator, and noting Veterans Club leadership will prioritize building a relationship with the ROTC community this coming year, and believes the two communities will be adequately represented by a single individual by the end of the spring 2026 semester, and noting Veterans Club leadership is in full support of a one-year arrangement involving separate veteran and ROTC senator positions, and therefore be it resolved that the following constitutional amendments be submitted to a vote of the student body. Creation of the ROTC senator position, effective following ratification by the student body. Merger of the veteran and ROTC senator positions into the Armed Services senator position, effective following transition into the 26-27 Student Association Senate on 15 April 2026. So if you allow me, I'll pull up the red lines. First, for the separate veteran and ROTC positions. So I made a simple edit here to clarify some wording that the CFO can be selected from all class senators and appointed senators, but that's just to simplify the wording so I don't have to edit that part twice. And then there will now be 5 appointed senators, and the 5th one being 1 appointed senator will be U.S. military veteran. Excuse me, that was the 4th one clarified, and the 5th one will be 1 appointed senator who will be a member of ROTC. And then obviously just the so far. So that would be enacted right after the student body vote.
Point of clarification, what was the CFO change?
That was to simplify the wording with regards to eligible members of the Senate for the CFO position. And then the second amendment would be enacted at the end of this administration. So it would turn it back into 4 senators, and then it would combine the ROTC and veteran senator positions into 1 appointed senator being a member or former member of the U.S. Armed Services.
Senator Leonard?
So for clarification, we would, as a student body, vote on the first one now, and on the second one at the senator election at the end of the next fiscal year.
As we have it currently, this would be voted on all in one package. So
It's
that
my
would,
understanding that when the student body votes on an amendment, like they're voting it into the rule book, so
yep,
it would just be the second amendment that would be applied, because you basically do override.
effective April 16th, 2026. Right?
Okay. Okay. Whenever someone does the resolution, that'll just have to be different.
Senator Smith?
The resolution we're voting on, you have it selected as April, like the April date. They are not going to have that, like Senator Lanner said, they would need it to be broken up because they're not voting on our resolution.
Yeah.
Senator Lanner?
So the way it works is, usually you like have the yes, no, abstain, and a link to the Constitution with the edits, and a link to a ballot measure. And you could have in the ballot measure that it would be effective this date, but that'd be a lot of links on, like a lot of links for them to vote on. Yeah, I think we can make it work out. I just don't think it would be very clean or understandable student body in the current way we vote.
Vice President Reed?
Can we just have one ballot measure that says that we create a temporary position? And this is going to be the wording effective immediately, and this will be the wording at the end of the semester, or at the end of the year.
If we think our Constitution allows it, yes.
Okay.
Senator Sessions?
What's the rationale behind going back to one senator versus just keeping two?
So I can provide some insight. We had a very good conversation yesterday with Sean McCree, that just visited us. It was about an hour and a half negotiation and just visiting. And we talked about how currently there is no real connection between ROTC and the Veterans Club. He commented on that, and we commented on that. Dane graciously went down to it yesterday before the meeting and started originating that community and that connection. So as their understanding, they feel comfortable and they would like to see a voting member from the Veterans Club or from the Veterans, Society, the veteran students, to be a voting member on this body. We have selected Dane as that member, but they would like it to be somebody who is a veteran until that connection is solidified. Now, I think that there in the Constitution it says that we can appoint either ROTC or veteran. And I think that ROTC is a major part of this university that should not be overlooked and should not be overshadowed, when should be also included in the conversation. So the rationale for having this one, for these two amendments, right, one being effective for this year and the other one being effective at April 16th, 2026, is simply this. It's a security blanket. So basically what that means is essentially this administration is giving the Veterans Club and the Veterans Club senator, or the Veterans senator and the ROTC senator 1 year to grow that connection, to foster that connection, to nurture that, to collaborate, to communicate with each other. They're expected to communicate weekly, give each other reports, give the Veterans Resource Center reports from ROTC, and vice versa. They have 1 year to do that. And I think that by making the amendment so that in 1 year, it will all come to a helm in one position, will be an added guarantee, or it should be, of that collaboration. Because then every duck is in its row and everything is in place where the motion has been set, right? And after that 1 year, they better be ready because here we come, right? You know what I mean? That's sort of the rationale behind it. Senator Smith.
So, with this second amendment to the Constitution, you're removing the ROTC eligibility to be that senator? Or are they a part of the U.S. Armed Services and I'm just not? I don't know.
Yes.
They're a part of that?
Yep, so ROTC would be a part of the Armed Services Center, yes. It'd be ROTC, it would encompass ROTC, National Guard, active, former duty, veteran, all of them. And that's why we're going to be changing the name from veteran. Because that can, currently, right? It's a great thing. So Armed Services was the recommendation that we got from Veterans Club to sort of really conjoin it together. Senator Leonard, do you have a point?
Are members of ROTC before they commission, technically a member of the U.S. Armed Forces? Yes, even before they commission.
I don't think so.
So you have to
This is the
do.
problem.
So we're just requiring a commissioned ROTC member. Just for clarification, yeah.
Senator Burke?
Can we let him answer that, I guess? I assume you would know more.
So I'm actually an enlisted member of the National Guard as well. I guess with this wording, it would have to be, it couldn't be a member of the ROTC who's not commissioned or not part of the National Guard.
I'm for that personally,
Yeah.
but I think, but I just wanted to point that back. Clarification, what's your name?
Dave Marks. Senator Boucher?
Could we possibly also like clarify the future member to avoid this kind of mistakes in this word?
Excuse me?
Could be like future member.
No.
Based on this wording, no, because you could have a freshman that would say, well, I'm going to be a future member of the Air Force, and then never do it, right? Senator Leonard?
How will this work if we decide to make those appointed positions voted upon positions? Which is why I'm kind of anxious about voting on both of these right now.
I'm
Is
not
that
understanding, are you asking to vote?
I would like to see, like we've discussed it before, and I would still like to see us work towards it, where all the appointed positions are voted upon by those community members, and I'm just wondering how that would work if we decide to make that a position, as far as when we went to edit the Constitution. Would it be this Constitution? Would it be the one with the veteran ROTC?
So,
I feel like that's kind of an anxious gray area.
sure, I would, in my opinion, this is just what I'm thinking. Because the Constitution, so those edits would take place for the next administration, under which they would be operating under the new Constitution that has only allotted for the Armed Services Secretary. Then in that case, you would then make a resolution that would say these, or it would be 4 positions, these 4 appointed positions, which would have Armed Services Senator, would be now voted upon.
Are you saying that that's not a goal of your current administration to make those voted
I'm
upon?
saying we're going to limit that, but I'm saying that I'm not going to include that on this bill relating to Armed Services Senator. Because that
That's
can-
not what I'm saying.
I'm not understanding what you.
I guess to
Vice
so
President, yeah.
I think what you're saying is if we pass something that's going to be enacted later, then what happens if we want to make edits before that gets enacted? Is that okay? So it's a gray area. I did not think of that.
She's talking about, you're talking about for,
It could be any edit. I was just
Yeah,
giving an example of something that would affect the same area of the Constitution.
any edit to the Constitution. Senator Leonard.
So we're gonna pass this bill saying, and
Yep.
so we'll have the Constitution as of now until April 15th, 16th. If anywhere in that time we decide we wanna make any other edits to the Constitution, would it be on this Constitution or the one that's gonna be effective the 15th?
That April 16th only applies to this specific position.
Okay, and so if we wanted to say, make those positions voted upon by the student body, we'd be editing the same portion of the Constitution. And so would we be editing the portion of the Constitution on the one we're voting on right now, or the one that's going to be effective April 15th?
Vice President Weed.
I guess if boy, that is a problem, isn't it?
I'd say the one that they're going to be operating on. Because the new Senate's not going to care about the Constitution that we have currently, right?
So I'm just saying, any edits we wanted to make to those sections, we'd have to also specify be effective upon this date.
To-
It would have to be the same date.
If it was any edit to the veteran or ROTC.
To the appointed senators.
No, because this just applies to the veteran and ROTC senators.
And any changes we make to the appointed senator section would affect the veteran
Yes.
ROTC.
Yeah, so you'd specify that these appointed changes for appointed, or these changes for appointed senator would go into effect April 16th, 2026.
That's all I'm saying, is
Okay.
that any changes we wanted to make to appointed senators would have to specify would be effective the same day as this one.
Yep. Senator Keel.
Never mind, you figured it out.
Senator Baumeister.
I was just wondering, are we able to do a friendly amendment basically to our wording for the future statement, just to change it from appointed to voted? Does this need to be a main point?
Senator Leonard.
The reason I brought this concern up is because if next election we want to vote on these senator positions instead of appoint them, those changes would have to be made before the election and therefore before April 15th and 16th. And so we have a huge,
So is there a problem with saying that it would be, if you wanted to change the appointment to a voted, would there be a problem saying that
because each community is so unique, I'm pretty sure we have to specify exactly who gets to vote on which appointed
Sure.
senator, and then therefore we have, I think clients can understand where the conflict is
That's
coming
good.
from. I'm sorry.
So I guess it's definitely a gray area, but I feel like what we could do is if we did want to make that appointed position voted upon, we could just override that future, action, I guess. Because the election would have to happen before this is proposed to take action, right?
Yes.
So, I guess the great thing is we don't have to vote on this tonight, so we have plenty of time to figure this out. But,
let's get to Senator King, he's been having his hand up for a while, so.
I kind of have a history question I'm kind of concerned about. So the first part is, has this position always specified veteran or ROTC?
Yes.
And secondly, how has this not been a problem before?
So I can respond to that. The Veterans Club, or Veterans Resource Center, has always recommended, voted on a person and sent a recommendation to the executive panel here at the Student Center. And as we were looking for candidates, like we talked about, you heard the story last week of the miscommunication that was there, but also we reached out to a person in the Veterans Club that had turned down the offer, and Dan was ready and willing, and was a member of the ROTC, which I thought would be good representation as well, since how there hasn't been thus far ROTC representation. Whereas the Constitution states that there can be, right? So that's how we sort of came to that. I don't know, I can't speak for the other administrations. I think it's just because it was such a ritualistic thing of they appoint or they recommend a veteran senator and we accept. Senator Smith?
Could we change the wording on section 9 here and include, just go back to the past one with the ROTC, since they're working together and there's so much confusion about who is technically in the U.S. Armed Services?
Senator Leonard?
That would exclude people who are members of the National Guard, who might, because I'm technically not a veteran, I'm not an ROTC, but I've been through basic training, I've been through AIT, I've served my country, I have every capability of being deployed, and so this is the only wording which I would fall under the veterans.
Point of clarification.
Yep. Secretary Secret.
Can you restate your question?
Could we not change the wording to what it has been previously of veterans and ROTC? That was the question, and then I have a second.
Yeah, and the response to that is it fall right back to where we are currently, and then there's nothing being done, right? I'm trying to differentiate how will this policy in 1 year look different than it does currently. And I think the only way that we can do that is by the wording to allow, all those people in and making it armed services. So, Senator Halsted.
Can we amend the date of the new adaptation of the Constitution to make it earlier so this current Senate has the ability to create a resolution for the next administration? If that makes sense.
A resolution.
Can we make the date earlier so that when this is set in action, we are still here to amend the Constitution to change to voters before the next senator is voted. Is that possible?
Yeah, the only problem is, like, what happens to the existing positions, like, in the middle of the year?
Senator Leonard.
If we make it the day before the election, we would be able to vote upon the armed services member, because then it would, that day, it would become a one position, and it would be a voted upon position if we decide to go back.
Vice President.
So you're proposing to have the ballot measure for the amendment and the vote on the same day?
No, I'm proposing that if any change we want to make to the Constitution, we would vote on it before the senator election vote, so that the day before we voted on senators, this became the new role, and whatever other constitutional changes we wanted to be in effect, so we could vote on the senators became.
A question for, would that be a friendly amendment, Vice President Lee, or would that be an amendment that, or would that be a, you know, that would take it back and drop it? Friendly amendment? That's right, because you don't have passes. Okay. Let's keep going here. I'm gonna get this side of the room, and, actually, probably we have a discussion on it. It's getting late. Senator Keel. Seconded by Senator Smith. All in favor of limited discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Hearing none, discussion voted. Thank you all for that answer. Yeah, that was really good. Okay, is there any open discussion? God, I hope not.
Oh.
Senator Leonard.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Aiden. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Good job, Aiden. Senator Smith.
Point of personal privilege.
You betcha. So we are looking, this can be open discussion, we're looking for one person to go to a, Patty can talk or Stu if you'd like to. There's a committee being formed on the statewide level dealing with housing and food service. The, how do you know her name? Almost the chick from the state. Heather Forney. She's
Don't put that in there.
She's looking for one person from each BOR Institute to help. You know, there's a legislature brought up that bill this year that talked about housing and food services sort of blindsided the BOR. They're going to slash it to pieces and just gnarl it up. So now they're getting ready to look at it themselves. The BOR is to proactively sort of look at housing, look at meal plan policy, and sort of formulate what they can propose to the BOR, this committee, before the legislature comes back next year with something even more drastic, right? So if you just need one, if any of y'all are interested, Senator Land?
I'm interested.
You're interested, great. So,
If you would like my
do you need
credentials,
two? Can we
you
have two, Matt?
Ah,
Just one?
one.
All right, you guys can fight it out, I don't care.
She got it.
Okay, she's got it.
I'm on food services, I'm an RX, so I feel well qualified.
Great.
to-
Maddie will hook you up, or Secretary Seaton will hook you up with details. Okay, any other open discussion? Seeing none. Ooh, moving on. CFO report.
No report.
Woo! All right, Vice President report.
So I know there are a couple of mechanical engineers in the room, but we have a town hall with President Tandy tonight.
In a half hour.
In half an hour, yeah. So I hypothetically have donuts with my brother, did what he's supposed to do. So please be there. If anything, just to support the students who are speaking up about issues they've been facing. I mean, it kind of means a lot to them. So if you can be there, I appreciate it. Thank you. And report.
Thank you, Vice President. My report. Thank you all for the great discussion. That was wonderful. That's exactly what we'd like to see. I'm going to do a quick presentation about Senate expectations. Senator Lang?
Point of personal
You betcha. This is going to, she knows the expectations. This is going to go real quick. I promise it'll be like I'm gonna say 6 minutes, okay? You all can time it.
I'll time it.
Get out the watches, everybody.
Alright, I got you.
No, you do not. And this is 25-26 Senate guidelines and expectations. Senator Baumeister.
Permission to limit discussion if you go over the 6 minutes.
Yeah, you betcha. All right, here's the executive. Senator Boucher.
Can we get the clock on?
We're rolling. Next. All right, the executive team, you know us, look at our bright shining faces next. Here's the advisors, Corey Headley and Dr. DeLugos. Next. Executive vision. You guys already sort of know this, but really we're going to be focusing on the industry, the community, the government. What that entails is connecting students to each other, South Dakota Minds. A lot of people stay in the rooms. How can we get them out with each other to games, to events, to fundraisers, to everything, right? That's getting our word out there, that's being with them. And also how can we be with the local city partners? Industry, restaurants, partnerships for homecoming, partnerships for football games, all of that good stuff, right? That's how we grow this university, that's how we make it fun. Community, that's the same thing as industry. How can we, sorry, I sort of mixed them up there. Industry is how can we help campus administration in the city bring more engineering industry here? Because the Hills is a very nice place, right? We can all agree on that. There's lots of stuff to do. There's not a whole lot of engineering opportunities. So that's going to be a big goal, is how can we proactively as students reach out to internships, reach out to companies and career fairs and say, hey, how about moving to Rapid? How about coming out here and growing South Dakota's economy? The last one is government, and that's really going to be effectively communicating and collaborating with the campus administration, which is what we're doing with these resolutions, right? Effectively communicating with the city. We had Mayor Sullivan come in the past administration and talk. We'll probably have him in again for this new administration. So collaborating with him. And then how can we work with the BOR and the Student Federation and ultimately the state legislature to get bills that support us and that we value to get them passed, get them noticed. Next slide, please. Expectations. I'm sorry that's a little small. I was doing it late. Basically, office usage, what that says is it's a provided space to visit with constituents, to do work. People do homework in there, people do Senate work in there. And they have committee meetings. That's where a lot of committee meetings take place. Please keep that space clean and tidy. Everybody has to use it. We don't want any gross stuff. Clean out the microwave if you spill something. Clean out the fridge. You don't leave a moldy banana on the table for a week, right? Treat it like it should be treated, with respect. Minutes and agenda, you can usually expect them like they have been. I'm going to try to get them by Monday evening. On or before Monday evening. That'll give you a full day to review them, to look over them before the Wednesday Senate meeting. Dress code, business casual, unless otherwise stated by myself. That's, jeans are fine as long as they're not holy and looking, I don't know, like you got attacked by a bear. Flannels, shirts, all that. I know that in the wintertime, hoodies and stuff, maybe a collared shirt would be nice, or button up, or whatever you need, but just look presentable, right? If you had your mother coming in, you don't want to look like this slob. Meeting attendance and punctuality, that's a big one. We expect you here, that's an expectation. We expect you to be here, you were elected or appointed or chosen to be here. Potentially we'll have salaries, potentially not. But either way, you're expected to do this work, to be an active member tonight, was a great start, so thank you. Communication is going to be key. If you haven't downloaded it yet, please download the Signal app. Just one more app, I know it is, it's terrible, but it's a really good form of communication. And that's how we'd like to communicate quicker things that are quick things, right? And committees can communicate, hey, we're going to meet at such and such time real quick. Teams you already know of, email you already know of. Point system, there's nothing written there, but essentially it's like if you're slacking off, or if you miss a committee meeting, or if you miss a meeting without a proxy, you'll get some points put on, right? And after so many points, then the executive board has to make that, we have to sit you down and we have to treat you like you're a kindergartner and put you in timeout. And we don't want to do that. So don't do that. Next slide. Technology. Like I said earlier, Teams, that's going to be for all information. Agendas, resolutions, meetings, past, present, future. That is like your Bible for Senate. Teams is. See, 2526 Boston. ChatGPT usage. If you use it, because a lot of people do, please proofread it. Please edit it. It's disturbing to read some stuff that Chat will come up with that isn't edited, and it doesn't even sound like a human. So just be mindful. Signal, like I said, it's quicker, it's a secure form, not for the DOD. But it's secure enough for us, right? It'll supplement Teams and email. Student email, once again, that's going to be where the agendas, resolutions, and meeting times are sent out at. Next slide, please. Committees, here we go, standing committees. I'll try to go through this real quick. This deals with, we're going to give you guys a form on the next slide, QR code and a website. And this presentation is on Teams, so you can go to the website. You're going to have a preference of which committee you'd like to be on. Student Affairs, they assess opinions and concerns of students, organize and supervise class subcommittees, right? So they deal with a lot of that student stuff. Public Relations is very similar, except they're the megaphone for Student Senate and for important stuff. They're the ones educating students on Senate and university policies and things that we're working on, relaying press releases to the media when necessary, being active in school events, all that. If we have a rainy day fund, right, more of that, PR will be the ones really getting out there and showing up to people. Governmental relations, that's all about interacting with the city, the state, the local government, the campus government here. They not certify, but they conduct the elections. They retain Senate members, check in, just make sure that we're keeping accountable, right? Finance, that's a hot tamale. They deal with a lot of money. If you're good with numbers, we can use it. They deal with GAF, SOAP. They make our budget. They help the president, vice president create the annual operating budget. They do a lot of important stuff. It was a fun time this year, but it was really busy with finance. From what I saw, I was in GR, so. Constitution, they deal with, as it sounds, our Constitution, the amendments, they deal with the board's constitutions, maintaining theirs, updated. They deal with new constitutions for new boards coming in. So if you're interested in writing constitutions, there's that. Here's the committee form. I'll give you 15 seconds to take a picture. Senator Bowman.
You were over your seat.
Yeah, by how much? 6:30. I got one last slide. It's Robert's rules, all right? And you all are doing pretty good with this. Roll call vote, every senator named, and the votes counted. You know that. Unanimous consent, that means without objection, right? Voice vote is what we've been doing all night. Aye, nay, abstain. Motion to suspend the rules. You've been hearing a lot about that. One person needs to initiate it, another needs to second it. Then it's a voice vote. Motion to vote needs one to initiate or to suspend, or second, excuse me, and then a roll call vote. Senator Justin.
What are the rules?
So those are the rules.
So
Vice President,
so the rules, typically, we have a resolution that's read once, and then read 20 times. So that's the rule that needs to be suspended. So if there's something we need to pass quickly, we'll suspend the rules and do it that way.
Yep. And that is all I have. Sorry for the added minute and a half of the word. Secretary Seaman.
A couple more things just to add on Robert's rules.
Yep.
You are allowed to ask for a point of personal privilege. If you have to leave a meeting early, just raise your hand and request that, and the chair can grant or not grant you that privilege. And then please wait to make sure. You can also you can call for a point of order if you need to clarify something. And then please wait until you are called upon by the chair of the meeting. Otherwise, I will crack you.
It's a tough job.
Make their life easy. Just wait your turn, raise your hand, whatever you need to do. That is it for my report. Thanks again for everything. Moving on to special interest center reports. International.
No report.
No report. Okay. Graduate.
Thanks for voting me in.
There we go. Thanks for voting international as well. Sorry about the.
I don't think no.
Sorry about the polling.
Almost correct.
Non-traditional.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna talk with financial aid and get another update about the scholarship database. And
Good
report.
man. Good work over there. Okay, any questions for the non-trad? None? All right, upcoming Senate business. Our last meeting is next week. I'm hoping to do a team builder, just to sort of have something fun, not a whole lot of work. We do have a couple of those resolutions, right, that we need to edit. Budget, the armed services, the Constitution Amendment. That'll be really the main stuff, but hopefully a fun team builder. That's about it for Senate business, I believe. Any announcements? Anybody? All right, any motions? Senator Boucher.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Seconded by Senator Waldmeister. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I just saw